Ever promise yourself, this is the week I get it together, and then life hits, your energy drops, and your routine disappears by Wednesday? If you've ever tried to build a mental health routine and it fell apart after a few days, today's episode is just for you. Today, with special guest Dr. Rita Louise, we walk through a simple routine system designed for real life so you can stop starting over and start feeling steady. So, welcome, Dr. Rita Louise, to the show.
Hi, I'm so excited to be back with you.
Yes, absolutely. I love having my favorite guests back.
Thank you.
So, tell the audience they should know you already from season last year, 2025. So, tell them a little bit about who you are again so that they could be familiar with you.
Sure. So I am technically a naturopathic physician and work as a medical intuitive. But when you do medical intuitive work, there often comes into it the psychospiritual, the mental and emotional factors that are underlying their health concern. So I've gotten very involved in working with people to help them move past themselves to find health and healing. And then there's the other piece is that I am a trauma survivor and have done a ton of work on myself. So I bring that to the table because I can empathize and understand and use some of the things that help me transform my life into being whole for them to use as well.
Absolutely, because we love this personal experiences on top of the knowledge, right? Because that's how people can relate to you. So, welcome to the stage. Are you ready to dive in
I
and
am
tell?
ready.
Okay, so why does mental health routines fail for strong people who are actually trying?
So what I have seen is that many people will go and say, okay, I'm going to do this thing, but they overload it with too much stuff. And I'm going to use dieting as an example because everyone can relate to the concept of, I'm going to go on a diet. And what they do is they empty out all the cookies from their cabinets and clean out all the junk food from the refrigerator. And then they buy healthy stuff and they think, this is what I'm going to do. And as you said, it lasts till Wednesday. And then they like cruise through McDonald's and get a hamburger. And they're like, oh, I can't do it. And they give up. And they don't give themselves permission to have a bad day. Okay. One, they start like overboard. They try to go in with 500 guns. And then when that doesn't work, they don't give themselves permission for having a bad day. And so, what I usually suggest to people is pick one thing, and do that thing till it becomes part of your life. And then maybe pick another thing. And if you have a bad day, I had a bad day.
Right. Get
And
over it, move forward, don't beat yourself up. And I like to tell my clients when they things are so huge or they think things are so big that they can't deal with it. And what's the thing they say? How do you eat an elephant?
so, true story. So, I just restored this 1860s house that was bad, really bad. And I did a lot of the work myself. And people are like, oh my God, how are you doing this? But I really had to step back and go, what am I doing today? And then the next day, it's like, what am I? And I would pick certain goals for that day and move on. Because if I look at this is where I need to be in a year or 6 months, it was overwhelming and I just couldn't do it, emotionally. And I think for people, on their mental health journey, what can I do today? What can I do to love myself today? Maybe that's eat a
Mhm.
healthy meal. Maybe that's do some exercise. Maybe that's do some meditation or tapping or breathing or taking some time for yourself. Take a bath. You know,
Now, what do you think is happening emotionally when people have to keep starting over?
Well, my experience has been is they don't necessarily start over or they wait for 6 months to a year. Like there's this big break that happens. It's not, okay, I'm going to start over on Monday. That's not usually what I find. What I find is they give up, and I'm going to assume, because I'm a very goal oriented, project oriented person. So if I say I'm doing this, I'm doing it. But what I can assume is that there's a lot of negative self talk that's happening, that's telling them how they're a failure, how they can't do it, how they're never going to complete it. And so it becomes this self defeating prophecy that they have inside themselves that just stops them in their tracks.
Yeah, that's good. Self-fulfilling prophecy, absolutely. And what about the like what you said, telling yourself you can't do it? That's the kind of, sometimes you could be obsessed with that as well, like that cycle and that pattern, kind of like a neurological thing, like a OCD-ish type of thing, where you just keep starting over and telling yourself you can't do it and picking up like the norm, like they make it the norm or something like that, right?
Well, everyone has an inner critic. I mean, that's the technical scientific term tied to it. But it's that part, and if people aren't familiar with it, but that's that part of your brain that says the most mean and evil things to yourself. You look in the mirror and all you can think is, "Oh my God, I'm so fat. I'm so fat." And once that gets activated, it can just sit there and play like a broken record. And once that record starts, then it moves from I'm fat and look at the ugly clothes I'm wearing and oh my God, look at my hair. And it can branch off from one single thing into this mountain of mean things. That's the only way I can say it. Mean things that you say to yourself
Stop
that you
being mean to yourself
would never say to another person out loud unless you hated them.
unless you hate them. So, what about somebody who feels too busy, too tired, or too depressed to do a routine? What's the smallest starting point? And you gave some tips already that still counts.
Well, one very simple thing, and from a very mental health perspective, um, is I'm a big fan of mindfulness. So let's say you have that inner critic that is constantly badgering you about anything that you might possibly do. A really good first step that takes zero time is to just become aware. It's like, wow, I was just really mean to myself. And that's really all you need to do. It's not do and 20 sit-ups. I mean, it's not like doing a rosary after going to confession, but just noticing it. Because as you become more aware of that energy in your space, it gives you the opportunity to change it. But one of the other things that it does is that it breaks the pathway. Because when we're in that thought pattern, we're like on the express train. And when you sit there and go, wow, what am I thinking about right now? It's like you stop at the train station and you have opportunity to get off the train.
Right. And some people fail to get off, right?
Some people fail to get off, but you have that opportunity. And sometimes you're on that express train and you have to keep reminding yourself and reminding yourself and reminding yourself. Um, okay, story. So I had broken up with yet another narcissistic boyfriend. And
Another?
multiple long, I got stories. I got stories. But I gave that up for Lent, so I'm not doing that anymore. Uh, and so I remember, because I learned about, the having a different thought and getting off the express train. And so I would sit there and go, "You're thinking about him again." And then I would like breathe a little bit or do something else. And this is like taking one shower. And then like a minute later, I'm back thinking about him again. And it's like, no, you're not going to think about him again. And it was just this process of doing it over and over and over again till it changed. The spaces between the thinking became longer, and the speed of the train got slower. And you can do that whether it's a relationship, whether it's your own inner critic, regardless of whatever is that story going on in your head. You can use that technique to kind of put a brake on it and shift it. Because there is biology that supports that whole process. When we're in that I call it bad brain. That's my technical doctor term for it. Bad brain,
Bad brain.
bad brain. And so when you're in bad brain, what it does is physiologically it releases cortisol and other stress hormones in the body, and then your body on the cells creates receptor sites so that you have one negative thought and it just sends up this whole cascade of biochemistry going on in your body that makes you react really fast. But as you start intercepting and diverting your thoughts to something else, the body starts getting rid of the receptor sites for the cortisol and other stress hormones and putting in ones for like dopamine or other happiness hormones. And so what you find is, if you practice this, and I'm saying it's just catch the thought, that in a few months something might happen where 3 months ago it might have set you into the rabbit hole of negative thinking, and you're not. You just didn't go there. I mean, I know for myself, when that happened, I kind of looked around like, okay, I normally would be like in a really bad place, and it didn't happen. And it was like a freaking miracle.
Hmm. So listen to this, because you mentioned like
It was that shocking.
some of your worst days. Like, I'm pretty sure some through that process you had some worst days. What does a worst day look like? Because sometimes people think, oh, if they have these worst days, it's like they can't get over it, and it's like it's not normalized enough that you will have a worst day. So what's that baseline of a worst day like?
So for me, the worst day, so I am the queen of, all right, I used to be the queen of ruminating. And
Hmm.
I also, from a stress response perspective, am a freeze type. And so something would happen and I would freeze and then dissociate. And so I would be over there thinking about all of this stuff. So it made me a really bad driver. It made it so, so that I really couldn't, I had to navigate life through this constant barrage of uncomfortable thinking, which made it so I just couldn't be happy.
Mm. Still,
I
that's
mean,
thinking and the bad brain thing.
it's the bad brain. And girl, I used to get some bad brain, and thankfully, not anymore.
Yes. So you
Not,
have to work through it. Even the best of us, people think because you're a professional, or you the therapist yourself, or your profession, that you don't have bad days. But everyone has those days, and there's ways to get over it. You're able. You are a conqueror.
that's right.
All right, so this is a great time for us to have a break because we're at the middle of the show. But before the break, I want to challenge them to, while we're on the break, I want them to choose one tiny habit you could keep even on your hardest day. And then drop it in the comments so that Dr. Rita or myself can look at them and, give you some feedback or whatever. But once again, quick little break. But think about, I want you to choose one tiny habit. I guess it could be a positive habit, but it don't have to be a positive habit. It could be a negative habit that you keep even on your hardest day. And when we come back, we're going to have Dr. Rita drop us a nugget about her habits. So stay tuned and we'll be right back.
You weren't meant to break. You were set apart. What if your deepest pain was the birthplace of your greatest purpose? Meet Gingerbread, a child caught in the chaos of her mother's depression and suicide attempts. She never asked for trauma, shame, or to feel invisible, but she found something greater. Set Apart, the journey to find hope through loneliness, shame, and death is more than a book. It's the breakthrough you didn't know you needed. If you've ever said, "I'm fine," when you were falling apart. If you've ever thought, "This story isn't for me," it is. Don't let fear, excuses, or busyness rob you of healing. This book will shatter the silence, stir your soul, and remind you, you were never forgotten. You were set apart. Set Apart, the journey to find hope in times of shame, loneliness, and death, by author Virginia Dale Manning. Available now, because hope can't wait.
All right, welcome back to the second half. We are here with Dr. Rita Louise, And if you missed all of those golden nuggets she gave you, even those stories, you want to go back and hear those stories. She gave us the tea today, baby. And you want to go back and hear all her juicy personal life stories. You want to hear that? So tell them what is one of your tiny habits that you keep even on your hardest day.
So actually, I'm going to tell you one of my worst habits that I'm still working on,
Okay.
and it's better, but not 100%. So when you grow up in a toxic family where boundaries are omitted, and I have to classify this. So I have seven brothers and sisters. So there's a lot of personalities going on. And so you're having a fight with this person over here, which of course could send me into like bad brain and I would be there for a while. But because you can't leave them, you learn a strategy where you let go, like over time you let it go because you have to interact with your sister or you have to interact with your brother. You can't get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
And what that taught me in my adult space was that if you're mean to me, I just need to go over there and get over it and then come back to the relationship, which is why I ended up with a lot of narcissistic men because they would do yucky stuff and I would never walk.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is one of the habits that I've really been working on, not necessarily in my romantic relationships, although I have to do that too. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but even in my personal relationships, it's like, okay, you did something that hurt me. And now I'll go and say, okay, hurt or have a conversation. But if it turns around where, it's my problem and I shouldn't have those feelings, it's like now I know I have the opportunity that I can walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a lot better at making that choice. And I'm a lot better at talking to the person to work out the issue where before I would just internalize it and own it all.
Mm-hmm. That's
That's,
good.
yeah.
So, how do you build for the audience? How would you recommend that they build a routine that doesn't depend on motivation?
So there is a motivation, but then there is also making a commitment to yourself. So I would really love to change the word from motivation to commitment. Because when we make a commitment to ourselves, we tend to do it and we tend to follow through on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you make the commitment that you are going to work on breathing or work on tapping or get some exercise or find something fun to do, it's making that commitment, and then like putting it on. I tell my clients, put it on your calendar, put it into your phone where you're doing it like a certain day of the week or a certain time where it becomes part of your daily routine, because once it becomes part of our daily routine, we kind of miss it if we're not doing it. But again, to me, it's about making that commitment, and that commitment based on what we're talking about is doing things that are loving to ourselves, that are honoring ourselves, that are improving our self-worth and improving our ability to interact with the world around us.
Right. Like as far as commitments, to piggyback off what you said, so for commitments, they kind of have to be activated, right? You have to remember it or whatever, like
That's
to
why I say put it in your phone.
yeah. So what are some other automatic cues besides the phone? Like what are some things, like you automatically brush your teeth, you automatically drink coffee, you automatically go on car rides or go to bed at night. What do you think about the automatic cues?
Well, and I think, okay, so I'm going to go back to the bad brain thing because that's really where I have worked with the automatic cues.
Mhm.
And so if to now, where before I would just go into bad brain and sit there for a while and then be like, okay, I'm better, and then re-engage without changing anything. Now, if I find that I end up in a place with bad brain, then I take that step back and go, okay, so what caused this? Was I triggered? Were they just really mean? And separate out, was it me and my stuff? Was it something they did and then have that conversation. So for me, that is the cue. It's like, okay, you've been ruminating for 2 days now. No, not doing that. I mean, because I could ruminate, I could literally sit there in bad brain and ruminate for 2 weeks straight. Easy.
Wow. What?
Easy. Yeah. It was bad. It was a really bad brain. Bad.
Well, the good thing is that you know yourself, and that's the key to correcting yourself when you know yourself and acknowledge it.
Hmm.
Those steps in it as well. So, what does a routine look like for people who have anxiety, depression, or burnout?
So I think for people with anxiety, doing the things that we were just talking about, becoming more mindful about what's creating that anxiety in their space. For people with depression, so my impression of depression is you're doing something that you don't want to. And maybe identifying what that thing is that you don't want to, and then changing it. People are so afraid of change, and it's more the fear of, I don't know what's on the other side of that door. But on the other side of that door, it might be freedom for
Mhm.
them, which would take them automatically out of the depression.
Right, right. So, for people who, they might think we talking over their heads or whatever because we're professionals, what's something like kind of simple, user friendly, realistic that people can do in under 5 minutes?
That they could do. Um, I'm going to say, because I love tapping a lot, but I'm just going to say just breathing. Okay. And so when you do a more formalized breathing, there are a number of different techniques. The one I like the most is called the 7-8-4 breathing, where you breathe in for 7, you hold it for 8, and you have to count. So hopefully everybody can count to 8, and then you exhale for 4. And if you do that 4 times, 8 times, and I'm serious, if you could do it 8 times, it brings you back into the present moment. It makes you ground, your body ground. It helps you let go of some of that bad brain or whatever is going on inside of you. And it's just breathing 4 times, 8 times. You can do it in under 2 minutes.
That's good. That's good. Good information. So, any final comments for the people or the audience?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is, especially if you're relating to what I'm talking about, and you have bad brain and you have a really big inner critic, that change is possible. One of the things that I figured out was I didn't have to stay that way, because I just figured this is who I was. I just had this really negative brain, and you know and it doesn't have to be that way, and that there's happiness on the other side. But it only takes a couple of, like, it really doesn't take time. It just means paying more attention, perhaps making different choices, and giving yourself permission to make a good choice one time and maybe not such a good choice the next time, but moving on with that practice.
That is so good. Well, tell the audience where they can reach you at, and then if you have something going on, some kind of special offer or whatever you have going on that they can tune into.
Sure. So my webpage is soulhealer.com. That's soulhealer.com. And there's tons of articles about health and healing and alternative health. I mean, there's a wide variety. But on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Central, and the easiest place is on YouTube, I do what's called Thursday Night Live with Dr. Rita Louise. And I open the show with about a 15-minute talk about a topic. And then I open up the chat line where people can get free on-air psychic readings from me.
Ooh, okay. Free.
And so that's 7 p.m. Central. The best place to go is YouTube. And my YouTube channel is Just Energy Radio. So that's 3 words, Just Energy Radio, 7 p.m. Central. And you can hang out with me.
Okay, cool beans. And before we go, I want you to choose one tiny habit you could keep even on the hardest day, especially when you're having a bad brain. And drop it in the comments. Let us know. We want to share with you. We want to be inspirational for you. And if you're tired of doing this alone, subscribe to Girl Talk Mental Health, turn on your notifications, and share this with a woman who keeps crying and keep carrying everybody else while quietly falling apart. And we're going to see you next week so you can know how to thrive in 2026. So thank you, Dr. Louise, and we look forward to seeing more of you. And y'all go check her out, go to her website, and we will see you all next week.
Thank you for joining us for Girl Talk Mental Health. Remember, your mental health is your wealth. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to at Virginia Del Manning.